I'm concerned that in this discussion, now granted you're talking to academics here, but I as an academic am profoundly concerned that intercollegiate athletics seems to be off the table. I'm willing to, I understand that we academics may need to give some things. Our mission, our central mission, may need to be hurt under these terrible circumstances. But there's something fundamentally wrong with leadership if athletics, which is not a central mission, and which over the past decade must have consumed something like $100 million of university budget. If that money continues to be poured out and is off the table for cuts. I know that this is a hard topic. I know that it has to do with traditions and feelings and all that sort of thing. My department teaches courses in religion that expect of freshman students that they will question their traditional beliefs, which is a tough thing to do. And some of them go home at Thanksgiving and say, "Mom, Dad, I no longer believe what I used to believe."
Right.
There's something wrong with an institution if we can't take the medicine that we prescribe to freshman students. So if I personally would like to see a really honest, clear assessment of how much money we have spent, let's say, over the last decade on intercollegiate athletics and what the expectation is in the future. A rationale for that is connected to the central function of the university and whether we can truly justify that kind of continuing expenditure under the current conditions. Third, a poll of our freshmen, of our undergraduate students in particular, determining how important to them intercollegiate athletics is rather than making assumptions on their behalf. And specifying to them the per student cost of intercollegiate athletics and asking them if it's worth it to them. And then a commitment on our part to make hard decisions wherever they lead. You know, if it turns out that the smart decision is to double the size of our intercollegiate athletic budget, if that's really the smart decision and I can be persuaded of it, I'll go for it. But we need to do what we're persuaded is right and not stand back on the basis of some kind of tradition or bureaucratic fears.
Okay. Let me start by saying I come from an institution you probably all know. I spent 25 years at the University of Missouri. This is a school that also has a very strong athletic tradition, very strong football teams, very strong basketball teams. This conversation happens at that institution as well as this one. It's not an uncommon conversation to have. And I'll say at the beginning that there is a connection between athletics and academics. And I'll be straight with you. I think that there are intersections between athletics and academics. And here are some of the places where I see those connections. One is in terms of enrollments. There's some pretty good evidence that's out there in the literature that suggests that students who come to this kind of an institution come for the entire experience. Now, how much you invest is a different question, but they come for the experience at an institution that has athletic programs, and it influences the enrollments. We know, for example, at the University of Missouri that when the team was very successful, enrollments shot way up, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. It had a direct impact. There's an impact in terms of donor involvement as well, so that you generate more income, that there are donors who are interested not just in investing in athletics, but also interested in investing in academic programs, but they get involved because of athletic programs. So there are complicated intersections between athletics and academics. Now, the second piece of your question has to do with accountability in athletics. And I would say the accountability of the athletics program is not off the table. There's definitely much conversation about the kind of accountability. So the kind of questions that you're asking for, I will take back, but I will say that those are not the kinds of questions that I can answer. Those are questions that can be answered by people who deal with the athletics budget, which is not me. And the questions that you've asked about how students perceive that program. I can tell you anecdotal evidence that has come to my ears from students, but I'm, again, not the best person to answer that question, so I can take that back to the best person to answer that question, which I can also do. But I'm not the one to answer that question for you.
Missouri also has an excellent athletic program.
It does.
Doesn't apply. The experience of Missouri in coming to national prominence and enjoying a surge of enrollment
yes.
and money because of that is not unlikely to be replicated at Ohio University. And it is not reasonable to expect of faculty that we will compromise, that we will cooperate as much as you might like in gearing down the central function of this university.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to say back to you, the issue about accountability is very much on the table. That issue is on the table.
Will it become part of the public discussion? That's what
I think
I'd like to see.
yes, I think it is. I think it's already part of the discussion. The fact that we're talking about it very publicly here has already put it on the table and has been on the table.